Well, here we are. It is Mother's Day, and my talk title this morning is Mother's Spiritual Guidance. The theme for this month, our Global Heart Vision theme, is spiritual guidance and personal responsibility. And the topic for today that was given to me was, we see a world in which spiritual guidance is valued. That's how I came up with the mother's spiritual guidance. And it might not be what you think I'm going to talk about, but what I'm talking about is how mothers are spiritually guided. We all know that mothers spiritually guide us to a certain degree. It is that mothering aspect of parenting that takes care of us, that nurtures us. Before we're even born, is nurturing us. As children, we explore and learn how to inhabit our bodies. As we move through our adolescence, we navigate the world through our emotions. And as adults, we rely on knowledge and the tools of our intellect to guide us through this plane of existence. All along, there's been within us this great wisdom that simply awaits our discovery of it, awaits our acceptance of it and our alignment with it. This wisdom comes from spiritual guidance. All of us have a spiritual guidance system. But I think that mothers have a special element to that spiritual guidance system that if you don't have that mother energy, that you might not be aware of. This is the energy that, if you've ever seen a baby cub bear, not far behind you would see a mother bear. And you don't want to get too close to that baby cub, because that mother bear will protect that baby cub with all that it has. And if you've ever wrestled with a bear, you know what I'm talking about. This is why you want to really keep your distance whenever you see a baby cub around, because there's an energy that is surrounding that baby cub, a bear energy. And mothers have that bear energy. If you were to try to harm someone or even insult someone's child, you know that feeling that comes over you when you are sticking up for someone. But there's a special energy that comes from a mom that will pick up a car and throw it at you. And that has actually happened at times. But it is life protecting life. It is that instinct to protect itself and the furtherance of its family. Some would describe spiritual guidance as intuition, others as communion with the infinite. We see various practices to access our intuition and experience of God through techniques such as prayer, meditation, visioning. But moms don't always have to do that, do they? They have that inborn ability to consciously dominate any situation or the protective mechanism is very powerful in mothers across the board. And I would say parenting across the board. But I'll get into more of the divine masculine next month with Father's Day. But when we are confronted with this energy, if you've ever been confronted with the mother aspect energy of the protective mechanism, especially activated in a spiritual quality, and it feels like the wrath has come down upon you, when you didn't know you were overstepping your boundaries, and all of a sudden, let me tell you how it is. And that mother instinct snapped in, and you were floored. You don't even know what hit you. You may not have been touched, but the energy of the protective mechanism is so powerful that a mother really doesn't have to say anything, because she does have eyes in the back of her head and sees all, knows all, and is omnipresent. And it has been said that God couldn't be everywhere, so he created mothers. Because mothers have a way. Well, we know that in truth, God is indeed everywhere, because God is omnipresent. We all know about that feeling of a mother's intuition. How many times did I think I was getting away with something? Just pulling a fast one on mom, right? And you only try that for so long as a child, because you get to the point where you know that your mom is going to find out even if you do something, so you don't even attempt it. This is where the protective mechanism is so in place that it superimposes itself on any situation where mom doesn't have to be there, because you can hear her in your head saying, let's think about this. And you go, I can't do that. I don't care if everybody else is doing it. I can't. I got to go home. I think I hear my mom calling me, because it is that powerful that it transcends any borders. It is that invisible, divine, umbilical, just like our cell phone is hooked up to a provider. Our energy of those that love us protect us. And Dr. Ernest Holmes refers to the feminine principle as the universal womb of nature, because as an omnipresent principle operating through all living things, it knows how to unconditionally nurture and grow to fruition whatever falls into its embrace. You don't have to be bloodline to have this activated. There are many who are brought up by people who are not their mother, their grandmothers, or their aunts, or fill in the blank, that still have that quality, that still have that access. And there's actually a lot of men who become the mother-father aspect in a relationship when the mother is not able to be present. It's not about gender. It's about that quality of protective mechanism that comes over. And they say if you didn't have a mother or a father, or both, you didn't need them, because there were other energies that were available to you that assumed those roles. If we look back, somebody, maybe it was even yourself, that assumed those roles for yourself to protect you. And this was the omnipresence of the infinite protecting itself through means of the parenting aspect. So it's been said metaphysically that our children are outpicturing of our consciousness at the point of conception, and if not conceived by you, they were at the point of your decision to be a parent. This is what you outpictured, this little one, or this byproduct of your consciousness. So if you do have a child, think about them for a second, and what are the aspects that they attribute in their lives? Meaning, let's say that you have a little one who is very quiet and reserved, almost meditative. You know, it's not always the commonplace, but we've heard of like the perfect child, like they sleep all the time. When they get up, they don't cry. Yeah, I wasn't one of those, but we've heard about those stories where they're just so incredibly calm and peaceful, and they make their way through life in a very easy, gentle way, because that's the outpicturing of you that they are representing. And then there's the other side of the coin, the rebel. Have you ever had a rebel in your life? A little monster? Well, be careful what you label them, because they are parts of yourself that you couldn't express any other way than by having offspring. So they get to represent those parts of yourself that you couldn't be. Maybe you wanted to be, maybe you were the rebel and you wanted to be calm, and so you had a calm baby. Maybe you were calm and you wanted to be a rebel and couldn't be, so you had one. And that rebellious aspect goes off into the ethers, causing havoc and creating drama in a way that only they could. But it's actually part of you expressing as only you can. It's just a different way of looking at children. And then if, you know, when you're considering having children, it's something to think about. What aspect of you are they going to portray in having a child? You know, it's like, do you want to have a little rebel? Do you want to have a little, you know? As for my family, my parents had 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys. The 2 girls are the older girls, and the 2 boys are younger. And it's interesting because the oldest sister looks much like the oldest brother. They're like sets. They're like, you know, twins, years apart. But when it comes to having children, my brother and I have no children. None. We haven't had children. But both my sisters have had 4 each. So my brother and I think that they've made up for what we were, if you want to call it, lacking. But my brother and I don't feel that we're lacking in any way. When we want to feel that energy of children, we just go over to their house. And see, the beauty of having siblings with children is I can drive away. This is why when I go visit my family in Oregon, I love you very much if you're watching the video, but I only stay for a certain amount of time. And I don't stay at their house anymore. Because, and of course their children have grown up and all have children now. So they're not staying at their house either, but their grandkids come over. And it's this whole lineage of where did all these people come from? You ever ask yourself that at reunions? It's like, where did all these people come from? And you go, oh, that was me. This is all my outpicturing of my consciousness. So there's something to be said about how people express. And you might even say, well, I don't even think that they're my child. They act so differently than I would ever act. I can't relate to them. But this is good. This is a good thing because they are expressing in ways that you may have never thought of expressing. And that's what this is all about. It's about expression. So, mothers have been spiritually guided to act in a certain way. They will step in when others would step back. And they will speak up when others would be silent. And sometimes I so wish my mother would have been silent. When she, oh, well, Stephen used to do this and that, and oh dear, you don't need to tell my young lady friends this, Mom. They don't want to hear about the stories of me in diapers, okay? They don't want to hear those stories. But of course, they always say, oh, tell me more, tell me more. But that energy, that quality of spirit that embeds itself as the mothering instinct is so powerful that it transcends time, space, reality. My mom passed about 7 or 8 years ago. And there are times that I can feel her energy saying, or, you're doing a great job. Keep going. You know, when you're in the still small places in your life and you think that nobody knows what you're doing, there's that mother voice saying, it's okay, or it's not okay. But it's that quality that keeps us real, that keeps us awake, alert, and aware. And like I said, if you didn't have a mom, there was an energy that took the place of that. Because we all have been parented in some way or we wouldn't have gotten this far. We all have either our own consciousness stepped in to be that for us, or some other person in our field stepped up to be that. And sometimes it's a variety of people that step into that mothering role. I know that when I was young, my parents worked a lot, and I was a latchkey kid. I was always home by myself. So I would go over to a friend's house, my friend Fred, and his family kind of became my family. Did you ever have one of those? Or maybe you took on one of your children's friends as your own almost. And Mrs. Schultz was her name. And she'd actually ask me what I wanted at the store and stuff like that, and buy little things for me. It was great, you know. She bought me Pop-Tarts and food sticks and stuff like that, because she knew that I was going to be over at the house so much that she wanted me to be comfortable. And, of course, when their family would be discussing intently things, you know, arguing, it was always the time it was convenient to slip out the back door and, you know, not be a part of that family anymore. It's great when you're the invited guest that you can uninvite yourself at any time. But back to the spiritual quality of being a mom. There is nothing more rewarding, nothing more powerful than the mother energy. The divine feminine energy is the most powerful energy of spiritual energy known. Now, gentlemen, this isn't to diminish any energy. It's just to be real about the divine intuition that women are naturally gifted with. The connection that they have to their intuitive self is so powerful that they don't even know they have it. And we are so distant from it, we don't even know they have it. And this is why moms know when you're up to something. Because my mom always used to say, it's too quiet in there. You're like, oh, I've got to make noise while I'm being bad. And then she knows that I'm not up to something, but then I'd be giving it away. But it's that energy, it's that quality of knowing beyond having to know. My mom did not have to know. She knew. I don't know how she knew, but she knew. So, how strong is the power of a mother's love? A mother's love is the love that Spirit has for each one of us, but even stronger, it is us. What miracles have you seen happen between a mother and a child, between Spirit as its creation? This is a story of a woman by the name of Angelo Cavallo. She lives in Lawrenceville, Georgia, where the incident happened on April 9th, 1982, as reported by the Associated Press. It appeared in the April 14th paper, And this person remembers it because it happened to be Good Friday, and her teenage son, Tony, had a 1964 Chevy Impala jacked up in the driveway. You know, it sounds challenging already when somebody says their car was jacked up in the driveway. He'd removed a rear tire and was working on the suspension. A neighbor kid came to the kitchen door to tell Angela that there'd been an accident. She rushed out to find Tony pinned under the car. Something had been stuck, and in trying to loosen it, he rocked the car off the jack. This is why, gentlemen, we don't just jack the car up. We prop it up with car jacks. Get a cinder block under there or something. Put the old tire under there to catch its weight if it falls. Now he was caught in one of the rear wheel wells. All she could see of him was the waist down. Those old cars have a lot of room under those wheel wells, thank God. Tony wasn't immediately crushed, but he was out cold and trapped. Hollering to the neighbor kid to get up, Angela grabbed the side of the car with both hands and pulled up with all her strength. It said that she raised the car 4 inches. She doubts that it was that much, but believes it was enough to take the pressure off of Tony. She recalls nothing about the rescue, but said that 2 neighbors reinserted the jack and dragged the boy out. Tony recovered okay. Angela was in her mid-50s, guesses that she kept the car propped up for about 5 minutes. She didn't even think about what she was doing. She just my son is in trouble, and I know how to get him out of trouble. This, whatever it is coming off of him. She describes herself as 5'8", large-framed and strong, but figures she couldn't have picked up the car under the normal circumstances, but attribute her feat to adrenaline. Adrenaline. Wow. That's some powerful stuff there. But beyond the adrenaline, I would attribute it to a mother's decision to do something. Because when a mother decides to do something, get out of the way. Just get out of the way because it's happening. And I remember my mom used to threaten me and my brother to come into our room if we didn't clean it up with a shovel and a trash can, which she did one time. It only takes once, right? Boy, that room was clean, like you haven't seen clean. I don't know where we even put everything. Don't open the closet. And some may say that lifting a car a couple inches is hardly the same as picking up a car. Doctor friend says adrenaline rush wouldn't last for 5 minutes as suggested of what we're seeing here. Wasn't so much as superhuman strength as endurance in the face of otherwise overwhelming pain. But this is a power beyond our understanding, right? I mean, on any other day, if we had just said, okay, lift the car, she wouldn't have even attempted it. But in that circumstances, under those conditions, something happened that supercharged her ability, and she didn't know that she couldn't do it. Just like the bumblebee scientifically is not supposed to fly because it's weight to wing ratio, but it doesn't know that. It flies anyway because it can. So there are powers that are active that we have a ability to access that can do superhuman things. And this is how the consciousness level of it works when your mom knows something that you think she doesn't know. She's accessed that superhuman quality in consciousness. And when you get home, we're going to have a little talk. We're going to have a little chat. I remember telling my mom, she said, when you get home, we're going to have a little chat. And I said, can't you just discipline me? I don't want to talk. Can't you just get out the ruler or whatever? And because I found it much easier to take the punishment than to have to talk about it, right? We have to talk about it. This means I have to actually change something. Now, my parents did not discipline me with anything other than a swat on the rear or... but it was that energy of them knowing something that I thought that I had so well covered. I had so well marked my, removed my trail. But I was just creating a trail by trying to remove it. And I learned over the years that it was easier and better to ask my parents' advice about things and say, this is what I'm planning on doing. How do you feel about that? And of course, they have an opinion. You're welcome to it. But I want to know what they think, because usually it was based in some truth that I hadn't even considered. There's within most mothers an unconditional, almost desperate love for their child. And it begins often before birth and never, ever ends. It never ends. I thought that once I was 18 that I was going to be free of that connection, right? I was like, no. It's even stronger now that I'm out of the house. How does that work? How does she know? The love is universal and transcends borders, cultures, and continents. Like a fierce mama bear protecting her cubs, many mothers are willing to risk personal suffering, injury, or loss of their own life to keep their child safe. Think about that. Somebody is willing to lose their life to preserve yours. That's a love beyond imagination. It is challenging to even consider that someone would lay down their life so that you could continue yours. It is a love that is beyond this realm of flesh and blood. It is pure consciousness, pure love, pure spiritual energy. But it is that connection, that love, that the Spirit has for us, that directs us and protects us as we get in alignment with what we know the infinite to be. Whatever your belief is, and that's what I love about this teaching, is we don't tell you what that is. We reinforce whatever you believe it to be. We don't tell you you have to believe this in order to demonstrate that. You get to make it up for yourself, because I believe there are as many religions as there are people in the world. So there's this little poem that was written, and I'd like to recite it to you here on Mother's Day. It's called "In the Valley I Grow." Sometimes life seems hard to bear, full of sorrow, trouble, and woe. It's then I have to remember that it's in the valleys that I grow. If I always stayed on the mountaintops and never experienced pain, I would never appreciate God's love and would be living in vain. I have so much to learn, and my growth is sometimes slow. Sometimes I need the mountaintops, but it's in the valleys that I grow. I do not always understand why things happen as they do, but I'm very sure of one thing. My infinite Creator will see me through. Thank you for our mothers who were brave enough to give birth, who loved through many growing up years, who taught about the infinite and love and being good, who often got no thanks, whose ears could hear the slightest cry, whose eyes didn't miss much either, whose hands held the battered and picked up, whose hearts were often broken, who always forgave and forgot, who encouraged when things were challenging, who always had time to listen, who worked so hard to make things right, who make the world so much better, who deserve our love on Mother's Day and every day, even for eternity. Amen. And in conclusion, we have the potential, each one of us, to express this unconditional love. But it is only active when we play the part, when we're in that parenting or mother consciousness. So this week, this month, this year, this lifetime, look at things differently. When presented with a challenge, look at it like your mom would have looked at it. See the big picture. Take a step back and feel the intuitive connection of what's really going on here. Instead of so often we quickly run to judgment. Suspend your disbelief for just another moment and listen with the ears of a mother. And so it is. Amen.